Hi, I'm Rick Stivers. I'd like to welcome you to Young Martin's Reels, and on today's episode we're going to be working on this Roddy 7008 Spincast reel, and I've run the checklist on it, and everything on this reel actually checks out well. We were not able to find a schematic. The reel is complete. There's nothing on the reel that's physically broken. And the reel turns smoothly. The spool release works. The drag works. The drag can be adjusted. The handle turns smoothly, and the anti-reverse works. So all these things work on this reel without a problem. One thing I have noticed is that this handle seems to be pretty loose. That main gear seems to be wobbling around inside there. So I'm going to see if maybe we can shim that in some way and see if we can't take that extra play out of that handle. But as it is, it still turns beautifully. There's no, it's just a little bit sluggish, but that's it. The button tends to wobble a little bit. So let's take it apart and see what we find. Let's start off by taking the cover off and move on to taking off the spinner cap. I really think, looking at this, that there may have once been a rubber line brake on the top of this that's no longer there. That's what I believe. There's little pieces of rubber sitting here. I really think that that's what they were for. But I think they're long gone. That piece is long gone. But it still seems to work just fine. Let's go ahead and take off the C-clip that holds this. Okay, this washer acts as a drag washer for it. Let's get it out without breaking it, if possible. There we go. Got that off without damaging it. And the spool comes off at that point. We've got the ratchet clicks in the bottom for that. Okay, we have another drag washer inside. And we have this drag adjuster plate. Let's see if we can use that to help take the drag washer off. There we go. That got the drag washer off and the drag plate. See that little notch right there? That's going to fit in that screw hole right there. Okay, the rest of this is moving well. So it's time to take the handle off. Okay, that's got the handle off. Yeah, we got a little play in there. Let's come to the other side now, and we're going to remove these two screws out of the side. Well, that's the plan anyway. Maybe they're not going to come out. Okay, that got that one to break loose. Okay. Wow, that's a much longer screw. That's because it's going through the button. Okay. We're going to lift the button out. Well, I'll tell you what. Let's leave the button in for the moment, and let's see if we can take the side plate off. There we go. I got the side plate out. Now let's see about removing the button. It should pull loose from the top and then slide up. There we go. That's got the button out. And that brings us to the point of trying to take out this axle shaft. And I believe that this is going to be another one of these where we have to remove a C-clip up here at the top. But we're not going to know that for certain until I can get some of the grease cleaned off up there. So let's try that. Alright, it does have a spring clip in there, which is what I thought it had. Alright, so what we're going to use, we're going to take these hemostats and we're going to pull down on the spring get it down off of the spring clip, and then snap it in place to hold it like that. Okay, now we still have to get the spring clip off up at the top. Okay, that snapped the clip off the top. Let's hope we didn't just lose it. I got the C-clip off of the top, or spring clip. There it is. Okay, there's our spring clip. Now, with that spring clip off, the axle shaft can pull out of the spring, or at least that's the plan. There's the spring off, and it's going to need a lot of cleaning. We are failing miserably at getting this axle shaft out, and I don't see any reason why. Well, let's take a look in through here. Let's go ahead, loosen this back up. And look through here. I got a feeling we've got an issue right here. There we go. Okay, took me a while. There's another C-clip right here on this shaft. It's holding that axle shaft in. So, there we go. It pops out there. And now the axle shaft will come out. I have to remember that when I go to put it back together. Okay, now this actually screws in and out. Okay, so that's another part to be cleaned. Now we still got our main gear right here. It comes out. And is there any shims on the main gear? No. But I'm thinking we're going to add a shim to the main gear. And here is the anti-reverse. See if it will lift out. It does. That's the anti-reverse ball. There is no on-off switch for it. And that leaves just the drag adjustment here. And we'll go ahead and unscrew this out of here. With that unscrewed, that allows that to drop out. Okay, I'm going to look and see if I can find a shim. Oh, there is a shim on this one. I'm going to see if I can find another shim like this one that we can install on here to tighten up this main gear in the case just a little bit. I don't know if I have one or not. Oh, there's two shims. But as it is, those seem to be awfully loose on there. And okay, all right. So that has taken everything out except this clicker, which is riveted in, and we're going to leave that alone. All these parts need to be scrubbed up and cleaned, so we're going to do that. I'm not going to run a high-speed video of all these parts being cleaned. I might stop in the event that we need to inspect something specific and walk you through the inspection of that. But I think you guys have seen me scrub enough parts to know how to clean a part now. So let's get everything clean. We're going to come back in a few minutes and reassemble. Hopefully it's going to be tighter. I'm hoping I can find a shim for this side plate and see what we get. All right, now it's time to put this thing back together. We're going to start off by putting this center column back in. It goes in counterclockwise. Just snug it up good. I don't think it needs to be torqued down or anything. I think a good snugging is all it really needs. Okay. Next, we're going to come around to this other side and reinstall our anti-reverse ball. Now, when you look at it, it's going to go in like this. This one is pretty easy because it's got the marks on it from where the main gear rode on it before. So that makes it pretty easy. But take it, set it back down inside on that post. So it sits in there like that. At this time, you're going to want to take and put some grease on it. You're going to put it on the case where it rides against it, and you're going to put it on the anti-reverse pawl itself. And it doesn't need to be swimming in grease, but it does have to have enough for it to function properly. All right. With that done, we're ready to install the main gear. Now the main gear, we're going to go ahead and grease up on the back side where that anti-reverse pawl hits. And normally I will oil this shaft right here, but since this one seemed to be running really sloppy, I've decided I'm going to go ahead and grease it instead. Okay, next comes the two shims that I took off. And originally I intended to try to add an extra shim into this main gear to try to tighten it up on the shaft or for the handle, and it did not want to allow me to put any extra shims in. So we're going to stick with just the original shims and slip the main gear back in. There we go. With that in, we're now going to install the axle shaft, which normally I oil axle shafts, but because this one seems to be so loose, I'm going to go ahead and grease it. See if that grease doesn't help take a little of the extra play out. Okay, now there's a groove in the axle shaft right here, and that's where this clip is going to slide into. But it's going to slide in through this hole right here. So slide it in until you can see the groove. Take your clip, slip it back in. There you go, lock it in. That locks the axle shaft in. Now, with that done, we're going to slip the pinion gear back on. There we go. And now that should rotate reasonably easy. There we go. All right, now what we need is to reinstall the spring and the clip right there. So we're going to slip the spring back in, slide it down. I'm going to have to kind of work it down a little bit at a time, hold it in place with my nail as each part gets slid down the shaft. Once we get it slid down, we lock it in place like that. That allows me to take this spring clip and slip it on the end and then slide it down into place, which unfortunately I don't know that you'll be able to see that very well. All right, once you got the spring clip on there, then gently release the spring. There you go. And now you should be able to activate the button. We're going to come back now and add grease on where the spring is and that shaft so that all of that should move freely when the button is properly installed. Like that. All right. Now we're back to installing this drag adjuster. The drag adjuster wheel fits inside, and then you line it up inside and drop the screw in the hole, and then adjust the screw in the screw. With that done, we're now ready to install the button. Let's go ahead and put a little grease in the hole where it pivots and on the back side where the button pushes. Slip the bottom of it in and slip the top in like that. Then install your side plate, put it in place, and your long screw comes on and it goes through the button, which is a little bit difficult since you can't see inside it now to line the hole up. So kind of wiggle it and bounce it around a little bit and it'll line up. Once that's done, now we can come back to this side, align that screw hole, and put your drag adjuster plate. Drop it in and get it to line up, get it to fall into that screw hole. There you go, like that. That way as you adjust this, it will move that screw in and out. See, which is going to put tension up on the adjuster plate. Now you can take and install your drag washers, but you need some drag washer grease on those. And I've been using Cal's Universal reel and drag washer grease. These are going to be a little tight because they've been mashed down a few times over the years. Just make sure you don't break them. Add a little bit more of that drag washer grease to the bottom of the spool where the drag washer is going to ride, and you can add a little bit to the top as well. Slide your spool down. Now now I'll go ahead and lubricate the other drag washer. These are pretty dried out. They've been dry a long time. There we go. And slide that down into place. And now it's ready for this C or E clip, depending on what you want to call it. This is not all the way down in the groove, which is why the E-clip is in there so precariously. So we're going to take it back out. Okay, we're going to take this back out and we're going to make sure that this is down all the way, because I don't believe it is. It's important that it is, otherwise this clip will not fit in the groove. There we go, much better. See how it's fitting into the groove now? It slid most of the way in all by itself. There we go. Now it's not twisted and torqued, so that's good. Okay, I'm going to slip this back on, and I believe, there we go, that this may be noisy. Let's find out. Put the screw back on. Put the handle back on. There we go. Let me try tightening the spinner head one more time. It's tight. That's good. Okay. We're going to install the cover. There we go. Okay, the handle has a star washer on it. And the nut. Acorn nut. Tighten that down. There's still a little play in that handle, but not bad. All right, let's see if we can get hold of the line and pull a little bit of it out so that we can test our drag. Okay, tighten the drag down some. Let's go the other way. Oh, that's very tight. Okay, we've got a functional drag. For those of you wondering why I had a leftover shim washer, that was the one I was going to try to install on the main gear to try to make it a little bit tighter, and it bounded up when it was installed. So that's why that's there. Now you've seen the Roddy 7008 taken apart, cleaned, lubricated, put back together. Let's do a quick operational check on it now. Does the button work? Yes, it does. Let's run my checklist. Okay, there's nothing visibly broken on the reel. Could not find a schematic. Is the reel complete? Yes, it is. Does the reel turn smoothly? Yes, it does. Does the spool release? Yes, it does. Does the drag work? Yes. Can it be adjusted? Yes, it can. Does the handle on the knob spin freely? Yes, it does. Does the anti-reverse work? Yes, it does. Okay. Can you turn the anti-reverse off? No, this one isn't designed for that. So, now you've seen it. This is the Roddy 7008. And if you like what you saw here, hit the like button. If you didn't like it, hey, go ahead, hit the dislike button and tell me what you didn't like. I'm happy to discuss it with you. If you'd like to see more videos like this, Young Martin's Reel really centralizes on old, obscure, obsolete fishing reels. For those who are finding them, you know, Grandpa's old reel or whatever, and would like to redo it. That's what this channel is about. Maybe one day we'll move on into some more modern new stuff, but for now we're working on the vintage stuff. But this is Rick Stivers with Young Martin's Reels, signing out.